Constitution's just a ghost in chains. Freedom slipping down the drains. Rise up, break the chains. No billionaire should run the game. Lying, scheming, stealing rights. If we don't fight, we lose tonight. End of democracy comes in waves. Justice buried in shallow graves. Stand up loud, don't be the slaves. Unmake the cage, unmake the cage. Tick tock, time's running out. They're burning the laws, there ain't no doubt. Oh no, America, what you gonna do? Rights getting burned and they're coming for you.
How about now? I'm seeing all the messages, Joe. I've got you here. I've got you here. No audio. Everyone is telling me, I don't know. Can you hear the applause? No? You can't hear nothing. But you can see me. Yes, you can hear me now. There we go. Okay. Holy craponomica. What in the frack? Come on. Come on, universe. There I am. Can you hear me now? Jesus Christ, what is happening? All right. Guys, it would help if I knew what the fuck I was doing on this restream. It's still fun. What the frick frack is right, Diana? What the frick frack? Thank you guys for clapping and keeping me alive. All right. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, even though you know the sound of it, something quite precocious. If you say it loud enough, oh no, even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious, if you say it loud enough, you'll always sound precocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Okay, we're back. Abracadabra, bitch. Here we go. Guys, we're going to start off. We're going to talk about a few things. There are some major things on the chopping block right now that Republicans thought they were just going to skirt through Congress. Okay. In real words, you know, they want to get rid of Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Okay. They want it to be gone. They are trying in every way, shape, or form to privatize it, to say people, you know, there's millions of people that were getting checks. It's all false. Like Bernie Sanders fucking owned the guy who's in charge of it. It was like, okay, you and I agree that 99 point, like whatever percent that the Social Security Administration was operating at over 99% accuracy. He's like, yeah. But Trump stated that millions and millions of false checks were going out to people who were 240 years old. Was that a lie or was he misinformed? Well, as I stated earlier, like, no, it was a fucking lie. It's propaganda. Propaganda. Okay, and I've been watching Cory Booker all day. I started watching him last night. I went to bed. I did not stay up all night watching Cory Booker because I need sleep. Sleep is the most important thing for us to get. So we're going to start off today finding out some history, because I have found out, if you guys have been watching Cory Booker this whole time, and now with other senators coming in to take questions, we are learning a lot of history. So there's a couple things I want to bring up first here. Where does Social Security come from? Why is it important? Well, let's listen to the man who made it. How about that? How about you cash me outside? And we do that. Okay. So let's start here with Mr. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who, by the way, if Franklin were alive right now, he would roll right up to Donald Trump on Fifth Avenue and fulfill that little question that he had during his campaigning. Here we go.
Today, a hope of many years standing is in large part fulfilled. The civilization of the past 100 years, with its startling industrial changes, has tended more and more to make life insecure.
To make life more insecure. This is what people were realizing after, 100 years or more of being here on, in America. Okay.
Young people have come to wonder what would be their lot when they came to old age. The man with a job has wondered how long the job would last. This Social Security measure gives at least some protection to 50 million of our citizens.
50 million people were guaranteed Social Security on the day he signed it. 50 million people. Why? Because they'd worked their fucking ass off their whole goddamn life, and they deserved to not be out on the street, to not be homeless, to not be destitute, to not starve to death, because they had the gall to live.
Who will reap direct benefits through unemployment compensation, through old age pensions, and through increased services for the protection of children and the prevention of ill health.
The protection of children and the prevention of ill health. How are these not the things that we want America to stand for right now? How are we even having a fucking debate about this right now?
We can never insure 100% of the population against 100% of the hazards and vicissitudes of life, But we have tried to frame a law which will give some measure of protection to the average citizen and to his family.
To the average citizen and to his family. To the average, everyday American. That's who this is guaranteed for. Okay? It's for me. It's for you. It's for the people who get up every day and work their ass off at a job and pay into Social Security with every paycheck.
Against the loss of a job and against poverty-stricken old age. It seems to me that if the Senate and the House of Representatives in this long and arduous session had done nothing more than pass this security bill, Social Security Act, the session would be regarded as historic for all time.
You're fucking right.
Hearing about
this is the live filibuster right now. We're not going there. I am going to show you actually Tammy Duckworth though. Now I learned something from Miss Tammy Duckworth, Senator Tammy Duckworth, veteran Tammy Duckworth, that I did not know. Okay, and we're gonna watch that here together, because how many of you know how SNAP benefits came to be? I learned that I'm today years old. I'm today years old when I learned this from the great, and Cory Booker is saying the same thing that I say, one of my heroes in the a living legend, Tammy Duckworth.
So passionate about expanding IVF, someone that is just freaking awesome. I yield for a question while retaining the floor.
Thank you, Senator Booker, for taking this important stand and for doing so much to make it clear how much pain Donald Trump and Elon Musk are inflicting on the American people in every sector of our society. I'm going to be asking you a question about what you've heard from agricultural businesses in your state about the damage that this administration is doing and the jobs that either have been or will be lost as a result, but I thought I would give you some background on what I'm hearing as well. I want to focus this body's attention on our nation's farmers and ranchers who seem to be getting punched day after day, week after week by the Trump-Musk oligarchy. Whether it's their harmful tariffs that hurt our soy and corn farmers, canceling and freezing more than $1 billion in funding for schools and food banks to purchase food from local farmers, or halting reimbursement and contract payments that our farmers are already owed. The senator from New Jersey and I are both working together to undo some of the most harmful impacts of these disastrous decisions, including joining forces to push his Honor Farmer Contracts Act forward. We're also starting to hear reports from farmers about just how damaging the Musk-Trump dismantling of USAID is. Jobs and businesses right here in America. For example, I don't know if the senator has heard, but in North Carolina, they had $2.2 billion in USAID awards, including for 27 large-scale farmers who were fulfilling orders for humanitarian food assistance, and 4 universities who were receiving agricultural research funding. More than 300 North Carolina workers have lost their jobs as a result of this freeze. In Georgia, they had over $389 million in USAID awards, including 9 large-scale farmers fulfilling orders for humanitarian food assistance, and 6 universities receiving agricultural research funding. Arkansas had over $210 million in USAID awards, including purchases of rice, grain, and beans from our farmers. Florida has lost $91 million in USAID awards, including $38 million to the University of Florida to improve livestock productivity and food security in developing countries. Texas lost over $48 million in USAID awards, including 9 large-scale farmers fulfilling orders for humanitarian food assistance and 8 universities receiving agricultural research funding. The list goes on and on. My neighbors in Iowa over time now have lost over $4 million in USDA food commodity sales. They have gained they had a total of over $149 million in purchases through USDA and other programs for USAID. Illinois has lost $245 million in aid in farm income that would go towards USAID and aid programs. I think that our farmers have been hit with body blow after body blow from this administration, an administration that in the first term and even in the second term promised that they would look out for America. But I have to say to my friend from New Jersey, I don't think that this administration has lived up to their promises to farmers. Remember that a nation that cannot feed itself, if we lose those family farms, if we lose our ag sector, we cannot lead the free world. We cannot feed ourselves. And
there we go. what I wanted to point out there in Miss Duckworth's speech is these millions of dollars, okay, were not being spent overseas. They were not being spent on foreign countries' aid. These were millions of dollars that American farmers were getting for feeding Americans and people around the world that they are now, they're not having. We have literally cut off America from American funding. That doesn't even make any sense. Okay, carry on.
Frankly, farmers have been hit over and over again. These incoming tariffs are going to be disastrous for our farmers. I was just in South Central and Southern Illinois, just across the Mississippi River from Missouri, talking to our farmers in St. Clair County, Illinois. And you know what they tell me? They tell me that the tariffs are going to affect their products being sold overseas. Our top products in Illinois, corn, soybean, pork. We're also the largest grower of pumpkins, so if you get that Libby can of pumpkins at Halloween time and Christmas time and Thanksgiving, that's thanks to Illinois. If you ever want to come, I'll just take you out to the pumpkin fields.
Illinois?
So it's the best pumpkins in the country. But frankly, they are being hurt over and over and over again. And so they're going to see the prices on their commodities affected. They can't sell their products overseas to the top countries that purchase their products. At the same time, their inputs, the fertilizer, the equipment that they need will be more expensive. The tariffs against Canada in terms of steel and aluminum is affecting John Deere. John Deere, hundreds of years old, an American company founded in the heartland of this great nation, is
John Deere
laying
gonna
off
go
people.
bankrupt?
And so
What the
we have
fuck?
to do better by our farmers. And our farmers have been betrayed time and time again by this Trump administration. They promise big things, but then they come in and by cutting programs like USAID, they are hurting our farmers, their bottom line. I sat down and I met with farmers who were 7th generation, 8th generation watching the teenage son of the farmer, and they're afraid that they're not going to have a farm there anymore.
Yeah.
Their products, their margins are so tiny that they don't think they're going to make it. So my question to my colleague from New Jersey is, what are you hearing from farmers, and why do you think this administration is taking so many actions that hurt them and hurt American jobs?
I love my colleague. I love my colleague.
I want to go. Why is this being so weird? My whole computer is weird. I feel like I need to restart, but I'm not going to do that right now because guess what? We are in the middle of this. Good night. We'll just keep playing it then. We'll just keep playing it.
I love how she's been standing up quite figuratively time and time again on issues. She's really inspired me. I've told folks that on social media I have been celebrating, elevating, liking her content.
Thank you.
She
Tammy
is
Duckworth
truly fierce
stands
and is a
taller
voice
than you
that
do,
gives me
Cory.
strength.
That
And
was a
today,
weird comment.
she's asking me about one of my favorite subjects. A lot of people were surprised. My staff knows this story well, that I'm on the Ag Committee. And when one of my staffers, a guy sitting over here, Adam Zipkin, who's been with me since 1998, came to me and said, you should go on the Farm Committee, this is going to get me in trouble, I laughed at him. I had committees I loved. And what's that old saying? At first, they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then they finally accept it. He told me all the issues I care about intersect with our farm and food system, that our farmers are such vital parts of America. They need more people standing up and fighting for them because American farmers are getting screwed. We're losing thousands of farms in this country. Family farmers are going belly up. The math doesn't work for them. And this president, as you've pointed out, oh gosh, President Trump is causing an unprecedented amount of chaos, instability, and harm for farmers. Farmers already deal with so much uncertainty from prices, weather, pests, and more. They should not have to deal with uncertainty that our government won't follow through, as you said, on contracts. On contracts. I've had farmers from New Jersey to Texas coming to my office about this president freezing contracts that we approved in a bipartisan manner, putting them in financial crisis. One of the first things that Trump and Musk did is freeze thousands of contracts and agreements that have been already made with our farmers. Farmers applied to grant programs and were selected on their merits. They made legally binding contracts, yet starting in late January, farmers found themselves not getting reimbursed, sometimes reading in the news that a particular grant was frozen, or sometimes no information at all, other than that they were not getting their payments processed. I yield for a question while retaining the floor.
Thank you. I think the issue of contracts is especially important because so much of these cuts are claimed to be to cut waste in government spending. You know, we have a law in the books that says that if we don't make payments according to existing contracts, then we have to pay the interest on those payments that we are late in providing. And so if we, for example, cut $2 billion in or freeze funding payment on $2 billion in contracts as we did with USAID, that means that we're going to have to pay, say, 2% interest rate, $60 million in interest. I don't see where that is a savings for taxpayers. That is a waste of taxpayer dollars. I think that is something that we should be talking about. And I also think that, as you were mentioning, the issue with our farmers, they are important to our national security. The SNAP program is a good example of it. That program was instituted after World War II. We had the very famous example of Audie Murphy, who was the most highly decorated soldier coming out of World War II.
So did you guys hear that? The SNAP program came during World War II. Listen to why, again, FDR, listen to why it was even made.
He could not pass the initial test to enlist into the Army during World War II because he didn't weigh enough due to malnutrition post the Great Depression. And so we created the SNAP program to make sure that America's young people were fed, were no longer malnourished, so that they could.
So post the Depression, children were so malnourished that this guy showed up and said, I volunteer as tribute. I'm going to fucking, go to war. And they were like, you can't. You're so skinny and so nutritionally deprived, we cannot put you in the Army. So the SNAP program, okay, which for those of us who don't know that acronym off the top of our heads, Tammy, okay, SNAP program, okay, is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program run by the USDA. It's a national program, okay? Started as a result of the malnutrition suffered by people during the Great Depression. And as you can see what's happening with our economy right now, we are headed towards another one. And we've already tried to eliminate this. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Could get food in our schools while they were going to school because it was good for the United States military to have a workforce that could enlist in the military and meet the standards. That is the origin of the SNAP program, and that has been a program that has sustained our farmers over time. And I think that we are losing sight of that. And so
it helps the military, it helps the farmers, it helps America. Why in God's green earth would we want to not have that? Okay, I just wanted to play that particular, okay. What? Please hold for a moment, everyone.
But other countries have taller buildings. God, maybe Ezra Klein has got me so focused now on making our nation do bold and build great things, but does the speed of our rail, as an Amtrak guy, speak to the greatness of our nation? No, other nations have faster rail. Does the wealth of our people, we have more billionaires than any other country, does that speak to the greatness of our nation? No. I think the things that speak to the greatness of a nation is how do we take care of each other? How do we take care of our elders who deserve our respect and our reverence and gratitude for building America, for sustaining America, for doing the hard jobs to raise families, to set the next generation on their way? I think we should be judged by how we treat our children. They are the only true hope we have of seeing tomorrows that we will never live through. I think we should be judged by how we treat the sick. Whether it's people with the disease of alcoholism or mental health or crippling cancers or chronic diseases, what do we do? I think we should be judged by how we nurture our families. God, we put American families under crazy stress. Affordable child care, paid family leave. Other nations, our competitors, have these things. I think we should judge the greatness of our nation by how we treat our veterans. These honorable men and women, some of them who gave their last measure, the last measure of their devotion, on fields across the world, from Thailand to Gettysburg. They gave their lives. And those who came home, the America they experienced will speak to the truth of who we are. And so I'm in this place like you're in this place. We've been friends for a long time. I'm blaming you a little bit because you're one of those people I called and said, hey, I'm thinking about running for governor. I'm thinking about running for senator. You told me to come here, man. I'm joking. I love you for it. I'm honored and blessed that New Jersey sent me here. I know that you and I are working to, and let's talk like we talk when we're not on the floor of the Senate. We both are deeply devoted Christians. You told me one of my favorite stories in the Senate, which I won't tell right now. I've been asking you to tell that story. I hope you'll tell it, but it's just about how your parents, James Baldwin said, children are never good at listening to their elders, but they never fail to imitate them.
I'm back.
You are a great reflection of the stories of your parents you told me.
Good night. Sorry. Important teen phone call there that had to... Jesus, Diana. 2-hour wait time. Wow. Okay, well, I hope you get through. I hope you can get those renewed. Absolutely. All right. Booker is still going. We're going to tune back into, but I want to go over a couple other things. All right. What is a filibuster? Why are we doing this? What is this about? Okay. That's Warren Austin. Okay. Lots of senators have filibustered throughout the years. Okay. A filibuster is a tactic used in the United States Senate. It's only in the Senate. It's not in the House. Okay. To delay or block a vote on a measure by preventing debate on it from ending. The Senate's rules place restrictions on debate in general. Okay. So in other words, the senator speaking, a senator who seeks recognition is entitled to speak for as long as they wish. Only when the debate concludes, whether naturally or by using cloture, can the measure be put to a vote. Okay. There have been 5 pretty famous, long filibusters. I couldn't think of the word. I totally blanked out. Excuse me. Filibusters in the history of our country. Jefferson Smith, who was played, of course, by James Stewart in the film Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Okay. Rand Paul went for 13 hours. Okay. Protesting U.S. drone policy. Okay. We had Huey P. Long in 1935, 15 hours and 30 minutes. Okay, arguing against passage of the New Deal. This guy was like, fuck old people. Okay. Wayne Morse in 1953, 22 hours and 26 minutes. He was an independent from Oregon. Okay. He was filibustering over Tideland's oil legislation. And of course, Strom Thurmond, the record holder, 24 hours and 18 minutes. While he was filibustering, of course, against the Civil Rights Act of 1957. Okay? He's subsisting on throat lozenges, malted milk tablets, and a steak sandwich. Spoke for that amount of time before concluding with the line, I expect to vote against the bill. So if somebody has to go to the bathroom, you notice the length of the questions is also not limited. So if somebody asks like a 5-10 minute question, he can run to the potty while that question's being asked, right? I think there might be built-in potty breaks, but I don't know. But I think that's how you do it. One of his friends in the Senate also asked him essentially like, would you like me to ask like a 5-minute, what would the length of my question would you like? You want me to ask a 5-hour question or a 5-minute question? I could do both to help him out. All right. Now we're going to watch this fun little video here. It's going to give us a little bit of history of the filibuster. Let me just, we're going to speed that up here a little bit. And here we go.
The filibuster.
The filibuster.
Filibuster. Filibuster.
The filibuster. It's regarded by some as an outdated rule that broke the Senate.
We need to get rid of the filibuster to keep our democracy.
Others say it protects the right of the minority and fosters bipartisanship.
It's basically designed, Chuck, to make sure the minority has input.
You may know it as the time Ted Cruz read Green Eggs and Ham and talked on the Senate floor for over 21 hours.
Do you like green eggs and ham?
But what exactly is the filibuster? And why does it exist?
A filibuster really is any attempt in the Senate to block or delay a Senate from getting to a vote.
Yeah.
That can be endless debate. It can be offering endless amendments. It can be offering obstructive motions.
Put simply, it's a loophole within Senate rules that blocks legislation. Rather than requiring a simple majority to pass a bill, it requires at least 60 votes to just end debate. Once that's over, voting can begin. But that wasn't always the case.
The filibuster came to be,
Right.
we believe,
I had that
because
wrong.
of an unintended consequence of a very small change and cleanup of the Senate rule book in 1806.
You can blame that on Aaron Burr. Just a year earlier, Vice President Burr,
Fucking Aaron
freshly
Burr.
indicted for murdering Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton in
Yeah.
a duel,
Uh-huh.
told the Senate they had too many rules. The Senate responded by eliminating a rule that could have been used to cut off debate, opening the door for lawmakers to talk for hours to delay proceedings. For years, business went on as usual, until one senator wised up and decided to exploit the change. In the 1840s, Senator John Calhoun took the opportunity
Look
to
at that
block
guy.
bills he feared would diminish the power of slaveholding states by talking for hours on end. Some senators took notice of the tactic, and decades later, the act of endless debate became more common, ultimately earning the name filibuster. The name actually comes from a Dutch term for pirate, which is pretty appropriate given that a filibustering senator is essentially taking the Senate captive.
Get dressed. We're going to have company.
Politicians on both sides of the aisle were frustrated that a single senator's never-ending speech could destroy legislation supported by the majority. So in 1917, at the urging of President Woodrow Wilson, Senate
Yeah,
Rule
that guy.
22 was adopted. It allowed the Senate to end debate with a 2/3 majority vote, also known as a cloture. This was later reduced even further to a 3/5 vote. Even still, long-winded talks were very much possible. The record for the longest single-person
There he
filibuster is held by South Carolina's Strom Thurmond, who tried to stop the passage of the 1957 Civil Rights Act. He went on and on for over 24 hours and failed to convince a single senator to change their vote. Fast forward to today, the filibuster is now more common than ever. But unlike the old days, they're rarely passionate hours-long speeches.
And I'm going to stay right here and fight for this lost cause, even if this room gets filled with lies like these.
Regardless of opposition senators' intent
Watch Mr.
in
Smith goes to
voting against
Washington
cloture,
again.
the outcome more often than not is just deadlock, that these issues just remain on the agenda year after year and in fact never get to a vote beyond the procedural vote on cloture.
Both Democrats and Republicans have toyed with eliminating the legislative filibuster over the years. One way to do that is the complicated nuclear option, when senators override an existing rule, like the number of votes needed to end debate.
The term the nuclear option is applied to one route or one procedural path to abolishing the filibuster, usually meaning lowering the threshold of requiring 60 votes cloture down to, say, 50 or simple majority.
Harry Reid used the nuclear option in 2013, clearing the way for executive branch nominees to reach approval with a simple majority.
It's time to get the Senate working again.
Mitch McConnell followed up in 2017 by extending the simple majority vote to Supreme Court nominations.
When Democrats used it in 2013, the opposition, the minority party, threatened to say, if you use this particular procedural route, we are going to blow up all the other bridges in sight. Every time you need consent from a member of the other of 100 senators, we're going to object. We're going to make your life so miserable, it's going to be like nuclear war.
Deadlock in the Senate isn't going away anytime soon. And whatever the future may hold for the filibuster, it's likely to remain a point of contention, regardless of who's in power.
Thank you so much, Washington Post. Okay. So the question that just came before us here is, what is Cory Booker filibustering? Okay, what is he filibustering? I don't want that. Let's go here. Okay. So this is an article talking about just that. All right. So it's already past 21 hours and counting. Okay. He's holding the Senate floor with a marathon speech. Booker took the Senate floor Monday evening to say he would remain there as long as he was physically able. More than 21 hours later, the 55-year-old senator, a former football tight end, was plainly exhausted but still going. It was a remarkable show of stamina, among the longest in Senate history, as Democrats try to show. They are frustrated supporters that they are doing everything possible to contest Trump's agenda. Okay. Basically, it's about everything that's going on right now. It's about the SNAP benefits, everything. So we need to, keep supporting. And as far as I know, he's still going. It's still happening. He's still going. He looks exhausted. But let's take a look here. Now, the former longest filibuster, like we noted a moment earlier, was from Strom Thurmond, trying to, get rid of and not allow the Civil Rights Act to pass. Let's check out this tiny short here.
In the early days of U.S. elections, the path to the vice presidency was anything but a deliberate choice. During an opening chapter, 8th, 1957, a date etched into the history of the U.S. Senate, not for a moment of triumph, but for a marathon of resistance to progress. Senator Strom Thurmond, fueled by segregationist zeal, launched into a filibuster that lasted a staggering 24 hours and 18 minutes, the longest solo filibuster in American history. His target? The Civil Rights Act of 1957, a beacon of hope for African Americans yearning for equal rights. Thurmond, fueled by deep-seated prejudice, attempted to drown out the tide of change with words. He droned on about election laws, Supreme Court decisions, and even George Washington's farewell address, all to deny black Americans their inherent rights. While Thurmond received praise from segregationists in his home state of South Carolina, his actions drew widespread condemnation from those who recognized the abhorrent nature of his filibuster. Yet, Thurmond's desperate tactics ultimately failed. 2 hours after his voice faded, the Civil Rights Act passed the Senate, and President Eisenhower signed it into law within 2 weeks. Did you know? August 28, 1857. A date.
All right, there we go. So I'm trying to find out what votes are before the Senate right now. So move ahead on plan to unlock Trump tax cuts, border agenda this week, right? So there's a few things that are on the docket to be voted on right now. And all of them are not good, right? The budget resolution, spending cuts, blah, 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 blah. And then that, when is this article from? Yeah, it's from today. So it's mostly budget stuff, but then that would, the budget stuff, guys, is what's going to cut the things that we're talking about here. Okay. And that's why that is important, right? Because we need all of those things. So we're going to go to Mr. Booker here. We're going to see what's up live.
It will make American businesses less competitive. That's AEI, folks. It is certainly possible for Mr. Trump's policies together in a way that causes a recession. His tariffs alone could shave a full % growth in the domestic product this year, according to some economic models, enough to cut in half the 2% growth rate that economists expected going into this year. Many economists contend that deporting millions of immigrants, as Mr. Trump promised to do on the campaign trail last year, could be even more harmful than tariffs, given the U.S. economy's need for workers, particularly in industries like construction and healthcare. And the administration's push to shrink the federal government an effort led by Elon Musk, could leave hundreds of thousands of federal workers and government contractors looking for jobs when hiring has slowed. That could set up a chain reaction. Workers who lose jobs or worry might would pull back on spending, which would force businesses to cut costs, leading to more layoffs and further reductions in spending. Ordinarily, that would prompt the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates and shore up the economy, but that could be difficult if tariffs are also pushing up prices, making policymakers nervous that cutting interest rates could spur inflation. It's a death by 1,000 paper cuts, said Jay Bryson, chief economist for Wells Fargo, certainly not a great liberal organization, Wells Fargo. He says all things individually aren't enough to cause a recession, but if you layer them on top of one another, it might be. Most economists think such an outcome is relatively unlikely, however. Mr. Trump has repeatedly delayed full enforcement of his promised tariffs. For example, on Thursday, this article is from March 7th, he suspended tariffs on most imports from Mexico and Canada until April. What month are we in? April. His deportation efforts have likewise gotten off to a slow start.
Tomorrow. Freedom
and some
Day.
of the cuts to the federal workforce have been tied up in court, as they should be. Such delays and reversals will help blunt the impact.
So the election results right now, we have no percentages in, okay, for the House in Florida, and then this is the key race here. We have no returns in yet. In Wisconsin, also same thing. The Supreme Court race is the one that we're looking at. So no results are in. Yeah, that's how that's going. But this is a election night, I guess, tonight for both of these things. And they will 7 p.m. Eastern. Polls are closing at 7 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so we have two special seats that were exited by Matt Gaetz and Mike Waltz. Okay, so I'm going to put this link here. CNN has, the continuous coverage here. You can go to that page and see those, but we're not going to find anything out until tonight on those. That's what's happening on that. Okay, let's go back to Mr. Booker here.
It's going to be substantial for certain communities. When you look at the aggregate, it's going to be challenging.
Hit me up with your questions, guys.
Will the senator yield for a question?
Oh, here we go. He's got to get a script up because he doesn't remember I wouldn't remember the exact wording.
This person who's asking me to yield the floor. I've been letting this power go to my head. I've never, in the Senate, had the ability to hold the floor and leave a person in a little bit of limbo. I just want to say that Tim Kaine is one of the friends, and honestly, he's like a pastor to me. He's one of the more honorable men I've met in my life, and struggles like me about faith and public service. I read your book. I really hope more people read your book. I didn't think it was going to be as beautiful as it was. I laughed. I wept. When you were attacked by spiders and things like that, I'm sorry I was laughing at your misfortune, sir. It's a book about you going through your whole state. By walking the Appalachian Trail, canoeing. Every story you told moved me. It's a great book. I've read a lot of my colleagues' books, but this one really touched me. You have this beautiful view of America, and I want people to read your book. I really want people to read your book. So if I should yield, I'll yield only if you'll tell people the name of your book and maybe tell something about it. This is extortion on the Senate floor. I'm going to hold on to the floor unless you agree to that. You can shake your head up and down if you agree. All right. Then, of course, to my dear friend, and somebody that I probably wouldn't be standing here. We had some discussions about procedural opportunities and things like that. He had to make some concessions to me. I won't give details, but he's an honorable man, and in the crux before I came here, he really helped to clear the pathway for me to stand here now. I owe you a lot of my 12 years. You are like a big brother to me, and I yield for a question while retaining the floor.
Well, thank you to my friend Senator Booker, and
Look
to
at it.
all who are
America's
gathered to
down.
watch this very, very important vigil.
That was the VP
And the
pick
question
for
that I'm going to ask
Hillary.
in slow motion to give you a chance to think of a response
God bless you.
is a question that was inspired by your colloquy with Senator Coons, where you guys were
Not a
training.
colloquy, that's not allowed. It was a
where
question.
you were discussion, where you were doing
Gotta
some
be
Bible
really
quoting
careful. The
back and forth.
parliamentarian's
And as
gonna
you
shut
know, I'm
this
a
shit
big
down.
Bible reader. And the thing I thought about, and actually I've thought about it during your talk since last night, is this part of the Gospel of Matthew where he's challenging people that he thinks are hypocrites. And he says to them, you can discern the faces of the sky, but you can't discern the signs of the times.
Wow.
That's Matthew 16, 2 and 3. You can discern the faces of the sky, but you cannot discern the signs of the times. The way I view this vigil that you have been powerfully engaged upon is you are attempting to discern and explain the signs of the times to your colleagues and to our country, and that's very important that we do. And I'd like to ask you one question about the signs of the times economically to follow the discussion of what we're seeing. But then I want to ask you a question about the signs of the times more in the nature of our democracy.
Yeah,
so
we're
to
at
begin
almost
on the
22 hours now,
economy,
guys. So
you
it's
walked
pretty rad.
through how strong the economy was on the day this president was inaugurated.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 months later, the challenges of a volatile stock market, the challenges of rising prices, the challenges of declining consumer confidence, the challenges of predictions that there might be slow growth or even a recession.
You guys can
We will
tune
have
in
a
here
vote on the Senate floor tomorrow about
to that.
Canadian
I've got
tariffs.
a half an hour left.
Based on a
Before
resolution that I've introduced that
am
we will.
going to be doing my next stream, guys, which I'll be back on my other channel. What's up with Nora? Finishing up my Lego project that we started yesterday. So I'm going to quickly ask if you guys have any questions, concerns, or violent reactions regarding the filibuster that's going on, why we're doing it. This is one of the most important days of America. It's not an April Fool's joke. I'm proud that Cory Booker is a senator from New Jersey. I've never been to that particular state, but I'm still proud of him. Like, I feel like a surrogate mom who's just proud of someone they know in the crowd, you know. The words and the passion that is being expressed right now in the Senate is what we need. And there was a very, let me see if I can get back to the part where the other part I want to show you guys in case you missed it. Between him and I want to find it. It was a really good. It was between him and Senator Schumer. Not Schumer, Adam Schiff.
Thank you. And I know you share that.
Amen. Will the senator yield for a question?
Before I yield to you, I just want you to know I love you, my friend, and thanks. We're doing some good things recently, you and I, trying to solve some big problems.
World.
Trump and Musk come together and call the guy.
We're going to return to the size of the Veterans Administration it was in 2019. Number one, that's an arbitrary number. Why not 2020 or 2016? What, you know, it's an arbitrary number. It's not based on any.
Well, as we were talking earlier, the firings are adding up. It's going to be now about 80,000 people from the VA alone.
Over the direction of this country, over the increasingly authoritarian direction of this country and what is happening to the rule of law in America. We look at institution after institution, and we see the guardrails of our democracy coming down. We see an assault on the rule of law unlike anything we have seen in modern history, maybe in the entire history of the United States of America. Each and every institution. And why?
He's in the Senate.
Because they can.
Deborah.
Because they feel they can. So they're going after the colleges and universities.
Right.
They're going after the institutions of higher learning. This was an attack that was presaged by J.D. Vance years ago in a speech where he talked about the professors are the enemy. They have to go after the seat of learning. So they're going after the universities, and they're using an enormous cudgel. We'll cut off your funds. We'll cut off hundreds of millions in your funds if you do things, if you say things that we in the administration don't like. If you irritate the personal predilection of the president, you will have your funding cut. It is unlawful, it is illegal, and yet they're doing it because they can. They're going after major American law firms because these law firms had the audacity, the unmitigated temerity to hire lawyers or have lawyers who would take on causes inimical to the president's personal interests. So they're going after these firms and they're threatening the livelihood of these firms. We'll close the courthouse doors. We'll cut your clients off from contracts unless you kiss the ring. And of course, it's not just the firms or what they represent. It's everyone who is in need of a lawyer, who now needs to know that if they run afoul of the policy preferences of the administration, they may never get a lawyer. And why are they doing this to law firms? Because they can. And they're going after judges. They're calling for the impeachment of judges. The latest is Judge Boasberg in a case involving the administration grabbing a bunch of people, designating them as part of a Venezuelan gang, and without any due process, without any process at all, taking them to some maximum security prison in El Salvador. And in fact, it would appear doing so even against the court order when the judge said, turn those places around. Now, why are they encouraging the impeachment of a judge? Well, I impeached a judge here. I was a lead manager before there was an impeachment of Donald Trump, or two of them. I led an impeachment of a corrupt judge. It's the same standard of high crimes and misdemeanors. It is not a high crime or a misdemeanor to disagree in a case brought before a federal district court, to disagree with the flawed reasoning of the government.
On your way
Why
in
are they doing this to judges? Because they can. Because they can. They're going after the press. They're going after the press and saying, if you don't call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, we're going to prevent you from attending press events at the White House or on Air Force One.
Like what?
And why are they doing this to the press? This party that claims to be against censorship, why are they doing this to the press? Because they can. And they will continue to do so as long as they believe that they can, until we, and not just we in this body, but we in this country, stand up to them and tell them, no, you can't. No, you can't. If the slogan years ago was, yes, we can, today it has to be, no, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't trample the rights of the American people. No, you can't censor our speech. No, you can't bring the weight of the Justice Department down on the American people. No, you can't. Because we're going to stand together. We universities are not going to let you pick one of us off. We're going to band together. No, we're not going to let you go after the law firms. We're going to band together. No, we're not going to let you go after the press organizations. We're going to demand free speech. Until we come together, until we mobilize in a massive way together to say, no, you can't, no, you can't, they will continue to believe that, yes, they can violate the law with impunity. So my question, Senator Booker, is how do we tell them, no, you can't, not with our country, no, you can't violate the law, violate our values, violate our interests, no, you can't. How do we tell the administration no?
Watch this answer.
My friend and colleague, I'm hoping that we could figure out thousands of ignition points where Americans can stand up and do that call to their fellow Americans to do more. I'm not upset at the folks that have been saying to Democratic senators and House members and me and challenging me. I've talked to so many of my constituents who said, you've got to do more, and all of us have to interrogate ourselves. Because like I said at the very beginning of this, at 7 p.m. on Monday night, I said, we have to say to history where we stood when they were coming after our constitutional principles, where we stood when they were threatening judges to impeach them for making just decisions, where we stood when they were taking law firms and threatening their business unless they came and kowtowed to the big leader, where we stood when they were disappearing people from America with a due process that even Anton Scalia said they should have. Where were you when they came after the health care of the disabled, the health care of the children, the health care of the expectant mothers, the health care of seniors? Where were you when they attacked veterans, laying them off for no justifiable reason and attacking the VA services that they rely on? Where were you when we turned our back on Ukraine? Where were you when we turned our back on our alliances? Where were you when they took the economy down with tariffs, when they took the economy down by threatening it so consumer confidence drops, where were you? How many things are going on before we answer the question, as it says in Hebrew, he, nay, ni. He, nay, ni. Behold, Lord, here I am. And so I confess that I have been imperfect. I confess that I've been inadequate to the moment. I confess that the Democratic Party has made terrible mistakes, that have given lane to this demagogue. I confess we all must look in the mirror and say, we will do better. And it's not just defining ourselves what we're against. We, the next generation, as the baby boomers are leaving the stage, the last baby boomer president, we have to say that we're going to redeem the dream. We're going to dream America anew. We're going to start talking about bold things that don't divide people, that unite people. Bold things that excite the moral imagination of a country to do better, to go higher, that call us together. This is the time where new leaders in our country must emerge. I'm not talking about senators. I'm talking about citizens.
Citizens!
This time of despair and darkness doesn't demand more darkness. We don't need to demean and degrade people who disagree with us. This is a time for us to do something bigger than that. Do you think Martin Luther King in Birmingham hated Bull Connor? Or said, I'm going to defeat this guy by bringing bigger dogs and bigger fire hoses? No. But he did say, we're going to be so creative, we're going to inspire the moral imagination of the nation, we're going to call to the conscience of the country, we're going to excite them about who we could be. When he went to the March on Washington, he didn't stand there and complain about the demagogues. Listen to his speech. He didn't stand there and demean and degrade the governor of Alabama. He didn't stand there and talk down to Bull Connor. No, he stood before the American people and said, it's not what you're against, it's what you're for. I have a dream. And now it's our generation. We have to redeem the dream. We have to excite people again. He, in the highest office of our land, wants to divide us against ourselves, wants to make us afraid, wants to make us fear so much that we're willing to violate people's fundamental rights. We're willing to go after the speech on college campuses. We're willing to go after law firms, go after the freedom of the press. Don't let him do that. Don't become like him. Be an American that says, I look to the future and I'm excited. Yes, things are tough right now. They're hard, they're scary, they're hurting, but we can overcome this. Our American history, if it's nothing else, American history, if it's nothing else, it is a perpetual testimony to the achievement of impossible things against impossible odds. We are a nation that is great, not because of the people that are trying to whitewash our history. To remove great people, Native Americans, black people, and women from our military websites. I don't want a Disneyfication of our history. I don't want to whitewash history. I don't want to homogenize history. Tell me the wretched truth about America, because that speaks to our greatness. And so what do I want people to do? It starts with us, man, and you're doing it. I've seen courage of my colleagues. We're doing it, but we have to do more, and I'm sorry. I'm not going to be a politician that's going to say, we are going to do more for you. I'm going to be a politician. I'm going to be a leader that demands more from America.
There you go.
I yield for a question while remaining.
I'm going to leave you guys on that note because that was fucking great. And that was approximately an hour and a half ago. And they're still going. It's still live. It's
For
still
Tyrannus.
happening. America's
Again,
stepdad
the verb
is still
tense,
talking.
semper.
We're still going, guys.
Always.
All right. Let's make sure that we're tuning in for America and that as citizens, we figure out what we're going to do to keep our country. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you, as always, to my mods. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. We got to stand up. We got to make our voices heard here in America. Don't delay. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, subscribe. Become a member. Hit up my link tree. And I'll see you guys next time.